Good day, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. This particular episode is going to be about the virus herpes. Herpes has a lot of stigma around it, and I have been a healthcare professional for over 17 years, and it's just one of the STDs that we see on a microscopic level. And herpes has been given the title, the gift that keeps on giving, because there is no cure for it. Now, the word herpes comes from the Greek word herpes, which means to creep or to crawl. It was used to describe the spreading nature of skin lesions caused by the herpes virus, or HSV, herpes simplex virus. Now, STDs, like I said, is something we see on a cellular level all the time. And to describe what it looks like, it's a clumping of cells that have an extra thick layer around the nucleus, which is why it's so hard to destroy, because that's how all viruses work. It's very hard to destroy the foundation of it, which causes them to linger on. Now, also, on the standard STD panel, this is what I want people to understand, because this is why herpes is so widespread and it goes undiagnosed, untreated, and even unrecognized in some cases. On the standard STD panel, because herpes is so common, most will have had some form of herpes and never even know it. They will not test you for herpes on a standard STD panel unless you specifically ask for it. Okay, they'll check you for everything else except herpes, because that's just how common it is. They just assume that any and everybody, even kids, will have some form of herpes, and that's not a good thing. But another statistic is most people will have had some form of herpes by the time you reach 60 years old. So that could be HSV1, HSV2, or shingles. Shingles is a form of herpes. Chickenpox is a form of herpes. So when I say that by the time you reach 60 years old, you have come into contact with some form or strain of herpes, because like I said, all of those things are in the family of the herpes. All right. So another fact that I want to bring out to people, and I hope that you all listen. Hey guys, how are you doing? Andrea, let's see, Casher Masher 06, Donking 1562. Hi, how are you all today? Like I said, another important fact that I want to mention is that a lot of people get the herpes virus as children, and it's not because of anything sinister like you're thinking. A lot of people get the herpes virus as a child from simple kissing from older adults. And this is why it's so important for adults, not, especially if a child is not yours, but if the child is yours and you are aware of the fact that you do have the virus, or you could be shedding, or you have an active lesion going on, do not kiss on these children. It is so easy for them to get this virus. Don't kiss them on their face at all. I'd say don't kiss them at all with your bare lips. If you do a closed mouth kiss and you just feel you have to kiss on a child, just do a closed mouth kiss and make the sound, or just to smell them, because usually we're just kissing on a child just to be able to smell them or smell our babies. But find some other method to go about showing that affection, especially if you're already aware of that going on with yourself. um Another thing is, even animals carry certain strains of herpes. It's a little different from the human form. However, it does occur in animals as well. Now, there are two main types of herpes, but there are other strains as well. Like I said, you have HSV1 and HSV2. Those are the two main types. And like I said, the others are shingles, and then you have chickenpox as well. But some of the things that one might experience if they are having an outbreak is a rash, of course, a visible rash or, outbreak, itching, bumps, sores, things like that. You may have a headache, a fever. All of those things are possible. Now, two people can have the same strain and it affect them totally different, because people have different immune systems. The strength of people's immune systems are different, and people can tolerate things differently. So again, you can have the same type of herpes, same strain, and one person can have outbreaks all the time. One person can have outbreaks never. Um, Another important fact to remember for pregnant women, ladies, if you're pregnant, you have the herpes virus. Um, it's not necessarily it's not necessarily going to affect the child. However, I'm going to say this: it is dangerous if you do contract the herpes virus for the first time and you're pregnant, because when you first contract it, that's when the virus is most rampant, it's the most virulent, it's the strongest when you first contract it. So if you are pregnant and you're just getting herpes or contracting herpes for the first time, that's when you need to be extremely careful when you are giving birth, and that's when they're going to highly suggest that you have a C-section. Now, like I said, if you had already had the herpes virus and you're pregnant, it's a little different because the virus is already in your system, and over time it kind of winds down a bit. And what they're going to do is they're going to prescribe to you acyclovir, or whatever, Valtrex, any of those antivirals, a few months up until you give birth. All right, and so that's going to reduce the chances of you transmitting it to that child greatly. There is no cure for viruses. There is no cure for viruses. That's why we have the common cold that nobody has found a cure for. However, it can be managed herbally, or like I said, with the antivirals as well. It can also be managed by your diet, because your diet can also trigger it. Stress can trigger it. Working out, heat, all of those different things can trigger it. It's possible to have both types at the very same time. And I'm going to break down another myth about the herpes virus, all right? Now, type 1 or HSV1 is usually and typically in the oral region, okay? On the face or the mouth, around the mouth. Type 2 herpes or HSV2 is typically on the genitalia. Now, the thing about this is that you can have either one of these types in either place. They're not specific. You can have type 1 genitally, and you could have type 2 orally. Now, a lot of people get genital herpes from oral sex. There's so much of it going on. People have a cold sore, they go down on somebody, next thing you know, they have genital herpes. And so that's where your type 1s come from, in the genitalia. So just something to think about. Again, when you're talking to a new partner or your partner about STDs, hey Thundercloud, when you're talking about your new partner about STDs, again, like I said, herpes is not something that they check for on a standard STD panel. You're going to have to ask for it specifically. All right, so if you two are doing this together, you go and you specifically ask for that as well, and you'll know how to move. Then you can ask that person, hey, have you ever had an outbreak? How are your outbreaks and things like that? Because like I said, people can experience it totally different. You can have the same shit, the same strain, you can have the same type, but it affect people totally different. If you guys have any questions for me about the herpes simplex virus, please go ahead and ask. Like I said, I've been in the healthcare field for 17 years, and it's just something I know. I know something about. All right, we can see it on the cellular level when we look at under the microscope. We can also see trick. We can see chlamydia sometimes. We can see candida or yeast infections. All of those things we can see on a woman's pap smear, when we're looking and evaluating it, in addition to looking for cancer. All right. So if you guys do not have any questions, I want to thank you all for joining me on this live. If you're coming in after the fact, I hope that that this was helpful and shed some new knowledge to you about the herpes virus, HSV1, HSV2, and again, do not be deceived. Not conceived, deceived. Chicken pox is also the herpes virus, and shingles is also the herpes virus. And let me give you one more fact. Shingles doesn't just pop up, okay? The shingles virus, if you have had chicken pox, it's already in you. It's always been there. It's just that when usually older people get shingles, it's just something triggers it again, because like I said, viruses never go anywhere. They just lie dormant until they're activated or agitated again. But again, thank you all, and you all be blessed. Thank you all for watching and listening.